Hi, this is Vinny from the iMoot team. I'd just like to welcome Andrew Chiu to iMoot16. I've known Andrew for I think four years now. A well-known Moodler, especially in Southeast Asia. Andrew will be talking about a day in the life of Moodle. Thank you very much for presenting for us today, Andrew.
Great. Great to meet everybody, and I really wasn't quite sure what I could present, so I thought I'll just, it's always nice to get the story of how it's being used or some insight that way. So my name's Andrew, and I'm at the American International School in Hong Kong, and we've been using Moodle for a fair few years now. It was maybe a good decade and a bit. I've been at the school, this is my 7th year, and so I've seen it grow a fair bit too. I'm just going to improve my layout here, that might help. Yeah, good. So I'm going to take you through a day, and I've really just batched this all together from kind of some of the things that we do. So I'll tell you a little bit, that's me, taking you a tour on our Moodle. Our school is a kindergarten or early childhood all the way through grade 12 international school in Hong Kong. We've got about 800 children. We use a number of different tools, but through grade 6 to 12, Moodle has been there fairly solidly for the last almost a decade in the high school, and maybe 3-4 years in the middle school. So we've just got a BYOT program this year. So all of our grade 6 to 12 students all bring their own devices. And this picture actually is of the grade 5. So these students will be our grade 6 next year, and they'll be getting their first in a couple of months' time, their first taste of Moodle. And so I'm just going to go through some of the things, set the scene, and tell you how we use Moodle. If there are any questions at any time, feel free to ask in the chat. And also, if I am a bit slow, just type moo or something for move on. And I've got way too many things to share, so I can always move faster. I just did a little count this morning, 86 active Moodle courses. Oops. 491 active users, 1,200 logins a day. That's the typical login week in the screen behind, with up to 1,400 just yesterday. And you can see where it dips for the weekends, but obviously students use it at home as well. So every course in middle school and high school has a Moodle page. And one of the things is, so this is our login page. One of the things that we've developed over the last 2 years is really looked at that usability and how can we help our users to really navigate. I think Moodle, particularly when I first started using it, people used to call it the scroll of death. We called it the click and wait. There are all sorts of names, and none of them meant it was easy to use. So we've given a fair bit of thought as to how we can help our users get into Moodle and use it well. So this is the normal login screen, and we use the Snap theme developed by Moodle Rooms. When a student logs in, this is what they see, and a couple particular things I want to show you about this. So they see their calendar, as you can see there. It highlights up, if you hover over any of those dates, it will give you the link straight to the assignments that are due or anything with a due date, and that's for all the courses that they are enrolled in. So it's personalized front page there. And then they have their list of their courses, but you'll probably notice that there's a load of stuff missing from the normal display. So I'll just go on. One more thing that's of note is the menu button, which is probably the most clicked button that's on our Moodle. Yes, Teresa, so you use the calendar too. I think it's fantastic. And so the great thing with the menu button is that appears on every page, but it's just up the top corner, out of the way. And when they click that menu button, then they've got all their courses in alphabetical order, but also in order of which ones are actually visible. So if you're a teacher, you might have a few in the background still being developed, and they come up down the bottom. So there's a lot of thought to that. And this is the menu screen. So when you hit the menu screen, this pops up, and you can get a little bit of feedback, like, there's some feedback available in this course that tells you the progress in this course, if progress is enabled, all of that. So the bottom part of that, this is the same screen. If you scroll down, you would see also you might have some deadlines coming up. You might have recent feedback from teachers. You may have some alerts from your messages, and you can click to get to your calendar there. So it's a very useful sort of menu, and that's on every screen. It's quite different from, this is the same page, but in the clean, or the more, this is the more theme, so a pretty typical Moodle theme. And what the big things that I really like is that it declutters. So you get rid of, we had announcements on there. I've seen other schools, they say, hey, how do you get announcements to the students? You've got your navigation, but it's huge and it can expand. You've got things that are repeated, so course overview, my courses, upcoming events. So we try to declutter that, and really it's all about simplicity. Thinking really about so if I go back to really thinking about what does the student need to do. When you're coming on as a user, you've probably got one thing in mind: I'm going to a particular assignment, I'm going to get to a particular course, and so it gets you there. The other thing I like about it is for teachers, so this is a typical course, so it puts all the topics up the top, and so in a course, you've got all of your documents look like that. But for teachers, it also, I like this, it sort of makes the teacher want to design bite sizes. So things are rather big because it is you can use it on an iPad or on a phone. In fact, I even do some of the admin stuff as I'm going around school. Somebody has an issue with something, I'm able to do that off of my phone. So, but this sort of guides teachers to make things bite-sized and simple. And I really like that. So it doesn't work very well when you've got teachers. Yes, that Dorian. When you've got teachers with huge courses already and they switch over to the Snap theme like this, doesn't work so well because all of a sudden their course is really clunky. But definitely starting from scratch, it looks really nice. Yeah. So I'll move on from that. We've sort of moved to using Moodle in a big way. So in the high school, one of the first things we wanted to do was to take attendance. We don't really have a system that helps us do that. And what we do is we run an American high school. So students are all in different classes. We want to be able to take attendance, but have that sort of attendance, whether people are absent or not, sort of be central. So we hacked together Moodle to do that, and I think I presented on this just at the last little mini iMoot. So I won't go into too much detail into it, but I'll just show you very quickly how it works. So a teacher comes in, and they're taking attendance in Moodle. So it's using the attendance block, but what we've done is we've made one course with all of the students in our high school in it. So it's about 280 something students. We've got 7 blocks that run it. Those are our 7 different classes that each student will take. So block 1 classes are all running at one time. And what we do is we so if a teacher comes in, they'll click on, say, block 1 to take attendance. And inside there, I've pre-created all of the attendances. So they just click on whatever is happening right now, and then they would take the attendance. And when they come in, they can list. So we've used groups and groupings to help with to help filter things down. So all the students and teachers are in groupings for block 1. So block 1, these are all the courses that are running in block 1. And you won't find any block 2 or block 3 courses in there. And then if you go to block 2, then you only see a list of all the block 2 courses. So we use groups and groupings to do that, which really helps. And then so obviously you can, so here's a grouping, block 1 have got these groups in it. And all to do that, we just uploaded from our student information system straight into Moodle using the upload users function, and we're able to put the students into the correct groups. And then, of course, if you look at all participants, then you've got a centralized, you can choose all participants here, and you'll see everyone, and you can see who's there and who's not. We then use the attendance data as part of our learning attitudes. So when we moved across to Moodle, we started putting grades on there, and one thing that drove was really thinking about and opening the conversations as to what should go onto a grade book. And one thing we started to do was tease out behaviors and standards-based achievements. So we call learning attitudes something. Maybe you might call them behaviors or learning behaviors or something like that. So if you're late to class, if you haven't handed in your assignment for some reason, maybe you're not prepared for class, this hasn't got anything to do with how you're achieving as a learner, so you shouldn't necessarily be dock the points from your learning achievement, but it might come out of your learning attitudes. So we use that kind of thing. We developed a rubric that looks, these are the sort of different realms of responsibility to self, responsibility to the learning process, or respect for the learning process, and engagement with learning community. So those are our attitudes for learning, as opposed to our standards achievements, which is your traditional sort of GPA. And we developed a rubric from that. And the rubric is what we use currently. It's got, I can't remember exactly how many points it's got on there, but 2 of them are to do with attendance. One is whether absence, and one is punctuality. And so because we're taking attendance on Moodle, that sort of data can automatically be collected and taken out of the attendance modules, leaving the teachers to to fill in the remainder parts of the rubrics. And again, then that rubric is also hosted, because we've got all the students on a course in Moodle, so we host that also in a similar fashion to the attendance. We just have an assignment for each of those blocks, each of the 7 blocks, the same groupings again. So you come in as a teacher during a reporting period, or just in the lead up to a reporting period, and you find your class to filter down to your students, and then you go into grading, just like you would grade an assignment. And in the back there, we've got a rubric, and it just has the different levels that we use for that learning rubric. So what we came up with, it's a really neat process that we went through. We sort of defined it from an ad hoc committee, what we wanted it to look like, what learning attitudes was. There was a huge process and lots of conversation there. And it whittled down to, what is yes, what is a no, what is exceptional, the things we're looking for. And then we were able to articulate it very easily and put in a place centrally and electronically that we can use to calculate GP grade points and all of that. So what that leads to is the grade book within that course, that huge course that has everybody. So it has your learning attitudes, your attendance and punctuality, which has come out of the attendance module, and then some sort of grade point. It's a sort of very American style system. Out of 4, a grade point for that block. All those grade points get averaged, and you get a grade point average for your learning attitudes. And so in our reports, so that's a small version of our reports over there. If you zoomed in, for each course, you would have your standards-based achievement. So that's like your traditional grades for how well you've achieved with the learning. And then you've got this learning attitude achievement, which is based off of that rubric and all those learning attitudes. So that's really that. I'll ask very quickly, does anybody do something similar? I mean, I know we're interested in improving that, and I'd love to hear if anybody has done anything similar or uses some rubrics in that kind of way. Great. Okay. I'll move on. So in the lead up to this, I actually really wanted to sort of walk around during the school day and show people using Moodle and how it is. But we do sort of, we use so many different things, so much happens, and unfortunately with a big blue button, that was going to be a challenge. So what I did was instead I asked teachers to send me, if they were to present or to share one thing about Moodle this year for them, what would it be? So I'm going to go through a couple of neat little things that different teachers are doing. So there's different pockets of various use within Moodle. So hopefully this will be interesting, and I'll cover a couple of different subject areas. This picture actually is in humanities, a grade 9 humanities world history class, and I don't know if you can see on her screen there, but she's got a map. And what this teacher has done is he's completely gamified and created a simulation based off of the world wars, of World War I. And this is this is typically what it looks like in his class. So his students are all in groups, and they've been given a country. That's the map there. They were at this lesson that I came in and take some photos of a few weeks ago, was when they were actually putting out their armies. So as you can tell, there's a lot that's happening. There's a lot of group discussion, collaboration. It's quite an amazing experience to see them all chattering away. There might be kids on phones, and you're like, okay, what are you doing on your phone? And you look at what they're doing, and they're actually texting or WhatsApping another group going, hey, don't tell them this, but we're going to do this, or and they're all based on the game or based on the simulation. So there's a load of engagement, and they go far beyond what you traditionally would see, I guess. So in this kind of a situation, we needed to keep the sort of groups, that sort of visibility of all your work. It really affects what happens in the simulation. So this teacher used workshops for peer grading. So one of those is this one, and it was a fictitious sort of continent. You wouldn't even recognize it as Europe, that they were originally given a country to sort of govern. And this is now, they're moving on to, and you'll recognize it, they call it Chindika, and they're all about to claim different areas of Chindika. And the assignment was to create a video of how you were going to govern Chindika, a persuasive sort of video. And so they created these fantastic videos, but rather than sort of just having them exhibited, either just to the teacher or to the class, it was done through the workshop assignment. So the workshop assignment, if you've never seen this one before, it goes through a setup phase where the teacher sets down the instructions and adds an assessment form. Then he'll click it into the submission phase, and so you'll see in the title there, he says it's due 1st of February, and that was when the kids would first submit their videos. So when kids visited when our learners visited the page, it would have an area where you could submit. It could be a file or a link or something. Then once everybody's submitted, then it goes into the assessment phase. And the assessment phase is where if a student would go onto the same assignment, they would actually see another assignment for them to grade, so a peer assignment. So what this is doing is it's facilitating that whole swapping over and grading, recording the grading, and managing all of that, coming out with a final grade. So this is what it kind of looks like in the back end. So each student would have their submission, and they would be assigned to maybe 2, 3, 4 different students to grade, and that would average out. And so when they're grading, they're using the assessment tool that the teacher has started he put down in the start, and they put that into the criteria, and then it automatically calculates a grade. And the teacher can also come in and grade as well. So the teacher can come in and grade and say that they are weighted, worth 1, 2, 3, 4 different, students' weights. So you, as a teacher, you can also add and contribute to that grade. And then they also receive another grade. So each student who's graded also receives a grade based on how close to, how accurately they graded, and that's based on how close it is to what everybody else was grading. So it's a very interesting sort of an assignment, and those are both 2 different grade items, so you can do what you like with them. They don't have to add up if you don't want them to, or you can weight them more or less. So it's a really interesting way to do things, but it really facilitates that peer assessment. So all of a sudden students know that their work is going to be viewed by peers, and also through the process of assessing their peers, they obviously understand a little bit more about their own mistakes and everything. So it's a very powerful tool to use, and this teacher used that workshops probably about, I think there's about 6 or 7 workshop activities throughout the year. We're coming to the end of the school year now, so yeah, that's workshops in our humanities. This one is a particularly interesting one in grade 6, actually. So the idea here is they have a number of vocabulary tests, just sort of pop quizzes and things like that. But the teacher noticed that she wanted to sort of give more encouragement or a challenge to those students who needed that to extend or to be better engaged. So she wanted to include this idea of bonus questions. So normally you'd do a quiz and be out of 12. Here she wants this extra mark to go towards, you know, maybe something that they've missed elsewhere, or just to get that feeling that, hey, I got more than, you know, I got 13. So how would you put that into Moodle? And the interesting thing is you could just take this assignment out of 13, for example, but if a student did get 12 out of 12 and they got the bonus question, could that bonus mark also be used to offset something elsewhere? So how would that look like in a Moodle gradebook? And so what we actually did was we created 2 grade items in different categories. So here she is grading the out of 12, the score out of 12, and she also has a running total in another area, which is bonus points, and there she's adding in the bonus points as kids accumulate them. And so those, if you look at what the gradebook looks like, how it's structured, I've cut out a lot of stuff here, but it's getting to be quite a long gradebook. But you can see, so she's got classwork, which is weighted at 40%, tests and quizzes weighted out of 30%, essays and projects out of 30%, so that makes your 100%. And then you've got bonus points down here, and that before those tests and quizzes, those would come in here. And in the settings for this item down here, you can set it to say that it's extra credit. And so what happens then is it adds up on top of what's been added there. And the aggregation method for the whole course that she's using is the sum of grades. And that's why it comes out as 742 here. It's showing you 169 plus the other category totals in these 2, but not including the 200. So anything that they got here would add up and go extra into them. Yeah. I might pause for a second and just ask whether bonus marks or anything like that has been done if you have any experience with that. Maybe I might even just do a little thing. So have you had experience with doing bonus marks in Moodle? Live poll. Great, so not much experience with that. Yeah, I used to use some bonus marks as well, or using the extra credit part to help with when they did a whole load of labs in computer science, then we would use those to help you know, boost or to help show improvement on top of something that they may have done already. So yeah, it's an interesting area, and we definitely, I would say, in general, we love the Moodle Gradebook. Currently, we're having a few issues because of some of the changes as we make changes to our gradebook, a gradebook setup. Those changes are taking a long time to commit, but yeah, in general, we love the flexibility of the gradebook. Okay, I'm going to move along. This one's an interesting one. I want to talk about one particular third-party tool here that I think teachers more and more so are finding special apps that, or particular apps that do something really well. They might not do everything that Moodle does, but you know, it'll do something really well. So, for example, if you do a Kahoot, which is a sort of a quiz that you can, sort of a gamified quiz that you can do with everybody using their phones or their devices to answer like clickers, or you might do maybe Socrative, where you can, or what's the other one, Edge Puzzle, where you have a video that they watch, and at points of a YouTube video, it will pause and the students can answer a question to check for understanding. Definitely, there's so many third-party tools, and one way that teachers start looking at it is, well, can Moodle do this? Can we make Moodle do this? How can we centralize and only use Moodle? And I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go about things. If there's a good tool, why not use it if it fits with what you're doing? So how can we make good use of these specialized third-party tools and bring in some of that back into Moodle? And so one of the answers is in Moodle now, you can paste in grades from a spreadsheet. So if they do go out and take, say, a Kahoot or do an online quiz of some sort, and they have your students have some sort of some responses coming back or some grades coming back, you can actually copy and paste. So long as you've got something that identifies the student, like their email address, it's usually what we use, and their grade, you can actually copy and paste that from an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, and paste it straight into this area, and you can actually import those grades. So it's very easy for a teacher to be able to bring back those metrics or those results. So I'm going to show a specific use here. We actually ran a very short internal PD session on this, but the Moodle Quiz can be a real challenge to get teachers to want to use, because it takes quite a while to set up a quiz, and you click a lot, and you know, you've got to put in all the right answers and everything. So using Google Forms and Flubaroo, I don't know if you've ever tried that, but what you can do is Google Forms, very quick way to create some sort of input from the students, and those answers can be, so that form can be shared very quickly, and Flubaroo is a little add-on onto the spreadsheet where the answers come in, and it can help grade the students all the responses for you automatically and send them an email back. So what happens is, if you can create a quiz in Google Forms, you as a teacher can go through one time putting in all the correct answers. So you just answer it once with a key, and then enable Flubaroo on there, and you can say those are the right answers. That, you know, that particular set of responses are the right answers. Then anybody who answers from then on can get an automatic email. And then to make things even easier, a lot of the time teachers don't like, you know, they've got their questions or they've got some resources for quizzes already. Maybe it's past exams or something. So why don't we use screenshots to collect those questions? Don't need to retype them or anything. Or maybe even take a photograph of something intriguing around school. So that's exactly what we did in this case, in this particular quiz. So these, if you see here, we've got some questions, these multiple choice questions, and they're actually screenshots. So this particular teacher went and got some of the past papers from his, from his resource bank, and he found some good questions and just took a quick screenshot of them. They were all in sort of Word files and PDFs, and just took screenshots very quickly. He gathered all those screenshots, even up to about 80 of them for one of the units. And then we just threw those screenshots into Google Forms and added a drop-down menu for A, B, C, D, E on there. So we just put the title question 1, put in the screenshot, answer 1, put in the drop-down, and we were very quickly able to create a load of quizzes. Actually, in the end, what we did was we even made a little Google script to, if you just put all of your pictures into one folder, the script would actually go through and create all of these, create the whole form for you. So he had about 80 in one of them. All in all, about 400 questions created over a space into different quizzes, and those are the quizzes there. It was for AP, micro, and macroeconomic sort of self-assessment. So the idea was the students could take this and figure out where they were weak. So sort of flipping the idea of how quizzes work. And so that's what they would do. They would take the quiz, the answers would come in on the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet would look something like this, and it would be able to tell the teacher. So it's a great tool because all of a sudden, very quickly, they've created something and shared it, been able to share it, and then you can get some really good feedback, such as, you know, this is one question, or this might indicate one question that you might have to work on with the class. You can look at it by student and say, okay, this student really didn't do very well. And then you can also get that and put it straight back into Moodle. And how you would do that is you just have to copy this little bit here, these two columns with the username of the header there. So it's just their email address and their score, and then come into Moodle and paste it through. It's under grades, so grades, import, paste from spreadsheet, and you paste it straight in there. And the next step, it just asks you, well, where do you want to put those grades? And it can even create a grade item there for you. So very, very useful, and you can use that not just for, obviously, Google Forms, but any tool where you have a number of grades and things, you know, coming back in. Cool. Are there any questions so far there? We're all good? Fantastic. So another area that I have other teacher highlights actually to share as well, but I thought I might keep some for when I do this session again tomorrow. So I might keep a couple up my sleeve there. I'll move on to student choice, and these are sort of operational things. So we run Adventure Week trips every October. Our whole almost 300 students go away to different countries, about 9 or 10 different trips. And then, you know, at the end of the year, we run some field trips. We have careers days and university visits for various grade levels or for the whole school. And so these are some things that we found that because we've created a couple of courses where all the students are there, we can use the power of Moodle to help with these operational items. So in the past, where maybe you might have to fill out a form and then collect back all those forms and figure out where everybody is, and then, you know, especially when you've got quotas, so you've got to, you know, first come, first serve, or do you do it by sort of audition or application? So if we could use something like Moodle Choice, or we could use some way on Moodle to help with those, then that would be great. And that's exactly what we've done in a number of ways. So over here is an example of our of another course that we have, which is the high school choices and announcements sort of a course. And in there, just coming up, we've got a careers day coming up, and with that we've got a number of speakers. So each student will visit 4 different speakers during that morning across different rooms. But to organize it, we've got to obviously have only maximum groups of 20 in each room. So how we've done that is we've just sort of allowed them to choose group A to group R, I think it is 18 different groups, and then there's a quota using a group that's using a choice system, the Moodle Choice, and that's how we allow them to make those choices. Within that, we also have a quota. So again, using the groupings mechanism in Moodle. So this one is using the grade level groupings, and I'm not sure if you can see that there, but grade level groupings actually has them by their different grade levels, and that's all done by cohorts in Moodle. So I've got all the students in their grade levels in cohorts. Those cohorts are then assigned or enrolled into this course, and as they're assigned or enrolled into this course, it puts them in a particular group. So those kind of groupings come across, and we can set, if you use groups to say separate groups, that means when students make a choice, they're only making a choice out of that particular group that they're in. So the homeroom 2016, so those are our seniors, so our grade 12s are only, you know, choosing against their other grade 12. So what we do then is we can set a much lower limit. So if there's 20 spots in each room, we can set a limit of 5 because there's 4 homerooms. So the grade 12s will have 5 spots, the grade 11s have 5 spots, the grade 10s have 5 spots, and Moodle takes care of it all just because it's using the separate groups and the groupings thing. The reason why I have to use groupings is because they're also in a number of other groups as well. So we just have to say we just want to limit them to being in those groups. Another thing that we do is some of the assignments, some of the their trips or their choices might be assigned already to them. So we can do that all in a spreadsheet first, and then what I just do from that is I just assign them a particular group. So for example here, Monday, June 13th, they could be assigned to any number of about, I think there's 4 or so ones that they could be assigned to go on depending on whether they're in a particular course or doing a particular, in a particular grade level. And then the remainder are able to make a choice for that day. So something quite complicated like that, you can sort out all the known quantities already in a spreadsheet, upload that into Moodle with just a group. So we're using the groups to identify which students are on which trip. And then what we're using here is the conditional access. And so when a student logs in, if they are in the adventure race group, OELP adventure, then they will see this, this label here. So they know just by logging in, oh, I'm in adventure race. If they were in the drama workshop one, then they would only see this. So then the adventure race wouldn't show up. And there's a few more further down, and if they weren't in any of those 4, then what they would see is another similar one like this, which is choice. So those are the students who are left over who are free to choose from another few activities, and then so they're given a choice activity. And again, the groupings help to do that. Are there any questions with that? I know I went through that fairly quickly. And there's responses for choice, so you can, it sort of groups them all for you. You know how many people haven't answered, for example. Very useful. I'll move along because I'll skip that one. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the lessons that I've learned over the last 6 or 7 years working at American International, seeing Moodle really grow over that time. And that's a picture of actually our Hackers Club. They've taken apart a MacBook there, and they're trying to figure out if they can rewire it up. Yeah, that's right, Dorian. There is so much that's possible. And a lot of it, I think has always been possible, but you've just had to sort of try and find the way that Moodle can achieve it. So a lot of it, I call them hacks, but they're very legitimate. It's just sort of thinking a little bit creatively, knowing what's in Moodle and trying to figure out how you can use them. So the things that I've noticed over the last few years is the places that Moodle has really grown has not been, hey, let's use Moodle, or hey, this is a really neat thing in Moodle. It's really related way back down to something that is very beneficial, and specifically to the teacher. That's how I feel like the adoption sort of runs. And if you've got a teacher adopting it, I mean, it's still fairly teacher-centered. We've got courses and there's a teacher in charge of it. So because we're still within the sort of fairly teacher-centered structure, getting the teachers on board is what drives Moodle adoption. So if you can find the workflow gains, if a teacher realizes that, hey, if I do a quiz in here, or if I do that activity, then I don't have to do all of that manual grading or manual stuff afterwards. That's usually where it all starts. And once they taste a little bit of it, then they get good at that particular tool. And what they become then is they become an evangelist. They start telling others, hey, I found this really cool thing in Moodle. You can do a quiz like this, or you can use this particular feature. And they become the evangelist, and that's a really important thing to foster. Providing opportunities for people to share what they do with Moodle, and so quite often if someone does come up to me and say, yeah, I usually am the go-to person for a problem within Moodle. How do you do this? How do you do that, Andrew? I might actually say, oh, go and talk to that person, or go and talk to them, because they've just figured it out, or they've just learned that just recently, and they're using it, and they probably can give you really good feedback on and really good tips. And that really grows that culture of them being an evangelist or a leader, and driving that adoption. Yeah, Google Classroom is very simple. One of the things that I noticed is we do have some teachers using Google Classrooms, and I would say, hey, use it. But what would the course look like if it were a full whole year's course in Google Classroom? And that's where it does lack the power of Moodle. So sometimes Moodle, I find, is our glue. So it really depends how you use it. It could be just the glue that holds everything together. In our high school, definitely with the gradebook, that's really driven a lot of the adoption. That's my next point, actually. that when we said, hey, everybody, so we went a year where if you had put your stuff into Moodle Gradebook, I would help to take it across quite simply just through an export into the reporting system. And so a fair few teachers started doing that, and then we realized the next year we could actually say, okay, let's just move everything to Moodle, because there's, in terms of grades, so everybody in high school is putting their grades on Moodle, and that's a one-stop place for grades, and that really helped our student support team. I mean, there's a lot that we can still grow in that area, but helps our student support team, helps everybody have a common dialogue or common vocabulary, and really talk about grades that way. We did a really cool teacher PD session where it was speed dating but with grade books, and so teachers went from each other, from one to another's grade books and just had a very quick 1 to 2 minute chat. They had to try and figure out whether they could understand the grade book. They looked at things that were interesting, and that's actually one of the more talked about PDs that's happened this year. So just because everybody was on a common platform, having sort of a common struggle in some ways, we were able to also share and grow in a common way. So that was really good. I feel like Moodle always has these little glitches. Right now we're going through one where the gradebook is very slow to do updates. I think it's probably because we're still on 2.9. I'm hoping that Moodle 3 or 3.1, some of those have been fixed, where if you wanted to, usually a teacher might say, right, this, I want to change the categories up in the gradebook area because we've gone from trimester 1 to trimester 2 or something, and something's in the wrong place. And it might be just they think of it as 5 or 6 different clicks, which essentially it should be. But for some reason right now our Moodle, like even with just moving one, it's got to recalculate all the grades, and sometimes it takes forever to come back. And I call that sort of a Moodle glitch. There are other things that have happened in the background, and it's often Moodle's developing, and we just have to sit through it right now and hope that we get through. Hope that an improvement comes along, and usually it does. And usually when the improvement comes along, then that's great too. And then leveraging more of Moodle's flexibility. I'm going to stop there because I realize it's already 45. I don't know if there were any questions. I know a few people have to go, so Gemma, thanks for coming along. Yeah, feel free to ask some questions and use the microphone if you like. Good. I'm glad it was interesting for some of you.
Hi, this is Vinny again from the iMoot team. I'll just jump in and thank you once more, Andrew. Yeah, I love some of your comments in there. Moodle is the glue. That was one of my favourites. I don't want to stop the conversation, so please, if anybody does have any questions, then we've got a few minutes before the next sessions. Feel free to hang around and have a chat. But just on behalf of the iMoot team, thanks very much, Andrew.
Cheers, Vinny.